Since Deadpool 2 is causing nothing but mindless chaos, we'd like to devote some time to a mutant that for a long time now has been trying to follow in Wolverine and Deadpool's footsteps. Gambit, the Cajun thief, has been set to have his own film for a long time, but now there actually seems to be some movement in that direction. With this in mind, we'll introduce you to Gambit and his long, hard road to the big screen.
I got 2 words for you. Drop it.
The mutant with an accent. After the raging Wolverine and the potty-mouthed Deadpool, we have Gambit, a charmer with a lot of skills. He was born in New Orleans, and his father then proceeded to abandon him due to his red and black eyes. He took them to mean the boy was the work of the devil. Growing up in orphanages, he was eventually sprung out by a thieves guild. Jean-Luc Lebeau, leader of said thieves guild, took a liking to him and took him in, adopting him, naming him Remy, and making sure he learned the family trade. His abilities as a mutant, which we'll get to in a bit, developed during adolescence, but Remy kept them hidden so as to not attract attention.
Act normal.
Nevertheless, laying low was a tall order, for many in the guild believed he was central to a prophecy about the unification of several guilds in the New Orleans underground. Then came the day of his wedding. Specifically, he was to be wed to Belladonna, granddaughter of the Assassin's Guild leader, in order to unite the 2 guilds. Unfortunately, this wedding took a turn worthy of George R.R. Martin. Belladonna's brother challenged Remy to a duel that Remy won, and as a result, Belladonna was left 1 brother short and single to boot, as Remy was forced to flee. During his forced exile, Remy traveled the world and met among many others the evil Mr. Sinister. Mr. Sinister helped him control his powers thanks to an experimental surgery, making him his henchman in the process. Because of this, he was involved in the massacre of the Morlocks in New York. In all fairness, Remy was fairly appalled when he discovered Mr. Sinister's plan for the Morlocks, but wasn't able to save any of them except for a little girl. Haunted by it all, Remy kept this information from his X-Men friends for a very long time. Only after this time with Mr. Sinister did he actually meet the X-Men.
We've got X-Men, and I think they wanna play!
Neat card trick he got there. Remy, or whatever, who is known as Gambit, has a very interesting ability. He can convert inanimate objects' potential energy into kinetic energy. He can, for instance, charge things with kinetic energy, throw them at his opponents, whereupon they violently discharge their energy by exploding. Gambit really likes playing cards, so these became the perfect conduit for his power. They are quickly charged due to their low mass and very easy to throw. Over time, he learned he could use his ability on living things as well, with, as expected, slightly more messy results. Supposedly, Gambit has a nearly irresistible charm, but we don't know for sure whether that's part of his mutant power or just plain old southern charisma.
Come up to the rec room in 5 minutes and I'll show you.
He is also quite proficient in self-defense using a metal baton. All of these characteristics make for a very interesting mutant with a rich backstory, one that has more than enough material to be a breath of fresh air in the superhero film genre. Let's have a look at what's been going wrong and what the current plans for the movie look like.
Lend me your ears!
Gambit's crazy movie Gambit. Gambit is quite the fan favorite and should be fairly easy to insert into the larger X-Men movie universe. His first appearance was in 2003's X2, but before you start digging into the movie, you should know that his role was cut from the final film and only an Easter egg remained: his name in the list of mutants that Mystique checks out. His first major appearance was planned for X-Men 3: The Last Stand. Keanu Reeves was set to play Gambit, but dropped out at the last minute. The producers then turned to Lost's Josh Holloway, but he rejected their overtures due to his ongoing island adventure.
It hurts.
Channing Tatum was then chosen, but a little too late. Gambit's role in X-Men 3 was ultimately cut. The Cajun would yet again have to wait for his big screen debut. This debut was to have been in 2009's X-Men Origins Wolverine. At the time, Channing Tatum was tied up in the filming for G.I. Joe, so Taylor Kitsch was cast as Gambit and even got the standard 3-movie contract, a development Channing Tatum surely found thrilling. Luckily for Tatum, Origins wasn't exactly a runaway success, so Kitsch's future roles as Gambit went straight out the window. Once again, it seemed like Tatum's time had come. Tatum, who describes himself as the biggest Gambit fan, tried to get the ball rolling again. It was rumored he would appear in X-Men Apocalypse, but Tatum was more worried about the solo film. In desperation, he even wrote to several well-known directors, including 2-time Academy Award nominee Bennett Miller, Darren Aronofsky, and Gareth Evans, all of which refused. I'm so sorry. In 2015, the script's first draft, according to Tatum an absolutely killer script, promised to do away with all the usual cliches of superhero movies. Unfortunately, words are wind, as they say in Westeros, and the film's production hit a lot of snags, especially in locking down a director. In June, 3 things were decided. Number 1, Gambit would not appear in Apocalypse. Number 2, Planet of the Apes director Rupert Wyatt was set to direct. And number 3, Léa Seydoux was cast as Belladonna. The movie was supposed to be released in 2016 at the latest. This never came to pass, however, since in September, Wyatt left the project, and producers were left scrambling for a replacement. Edge of Tomorrow director Doug Liman took over and said he would make Gambit a sexy thriller and a heist movie. This state of events did not last long. He said goodbye to Gambit for DC's Dark Universe, a project which ultimately fell through as well.
Let's do this.
Things were looking grim for Gambit, but then Deadpool and Logan's successes gave the film's producers hope, leading to the hiring of Pirates of the Caribbean director Gore Verbinski. If you've been following the video, however, you already know what happened next. He was ultimately fired due to creative differences. Oh, the shock! Even though the deadline is fast approaching and the film still doesn't have a director, Tatum and the film's producers stand staunchly behind their film. It's slated to be released in 2019, and filming is supposed to begin this year, but as we can see, there are still a lot of maybes and hopefullys.
That's a nice stick.
Who do you think will end up directing it? And what do you think of the Mutants? What's your favorite X-Men movie so far? Let us know in the comments. For more on the X-Men, try this video.